Welcome back to Startup Health Now. My name is Unity Stokes, co-founder at Startup Health. This is the podcast where we get to have deep and meaningful conversations so we can get to know the change makers, the entrepreneurs and innovators who are transforming health. Stick around, it's going to be another great show.
We have an all-star mega panel that really brings together the builders of the modern health stack, from care delivery, diagnostics, cloud, and AI infrastructure. I would like to bring up Dr. Angela Shippy to welcome this all-star panel. Dr. Shippy from AWS, welcome to the Apollo House. And will the whole panel just come on up? We have leaders from Amazon, NVIDIA, Labcorp, and Advocate Health. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here this evening. And it is true. This is a rock star panel of friends and colleagues truly representing the entire healthcare continuum, from what happens from a research and development standpoint, what happens from a diagnostic standpoint, and across an integrated delivery system. So again, I'm Angela Shippy, Senior Physician and Clinical Innovation Lead for the Healthcare and Life Sciences team at AWS. I'm an internal medicine physician by training, practiced as a hospitalist for many years, Chief Quality, Chief Medical Officer roles until I came to this team at AWS 5 years ago. And it only makes sense because I've been an end user of technology my entire career, and I truly believe it's what's going to make a difference in terms of how we take care of people in the future. So all of you have been here a couple of days. You've been hearing this ongoing message around what's happening in patient care, what's happening in research and development, what's happening across pharma, biopharma, life sciences, health tech, everything. And so we're going to start to talk about that right now. And if you don't think that things are changing quickly, think about what it was like when you were here a year ago. Outside of the weather, which was really rainy, now it's beautiful, there's even more things that are happening from an AI and agentic standpoint. So again, I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves, and I'm going to have each one of them talk about something that they've heard so far while they've been here that's resonated with them, and then we'll go into our questions. I'll start with you.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to have to speak a little weirdly, so apologies for my voice, but I'm Mark Andrews. I'm on the Amazon side of things, working on the AGI team. So we build the Amazon Nova family of models. That's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. Chelsea Sumner. I'm a clinical pharmacist by training, but I support our healthcare AI startup ecosystem at NVIDIA.
Hi, everyone. I am the person that Vinod Khosla said would be replaced by AI. I'm a radiologist by training. Run for the hills. The machines are coming. That's what Vinod said. And we did. We ran for the hills. But the one thing that I'll say right at the beginning is vehemently believe that AI will not replace a radiologist. The radiologist with AI will replace the radiologist without AI. Right, so that's my belief. So Rasu Shrestha, radiologist by background, trained in informatics and business. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Innovation and Commercialization Officer for Advocate Health.
Okay. Thanks, Rasu. Hey, everybody. Brian Caveney, Chief Medical Officer of Labcorp. And I think pathologists, which typically do laboratory medicine, are usually grouped with radiologists as being the two that are supposed to be put out of business quickly. But I think we'll try to convince you tonight we still have some remaining value and can really make the art of medicine come alive for patients and improve outcomes, while AI is definitely cataloging all of the information we have in the world so that we can do a better job.
And just in case the machines really do take over the world, I always say please and thank you when I ask questions. Okay, Rasu, I'm going to start with you. Clearly at Advocate Health, you all have decided you're going to have a strategy where you're impacting every part of the continuum, from education to research to what it means for the community, outcomes, everything. So my question for you, how can institutions shift from using AI as a layer tool to really rebuilding for its data foundation to support a single trusted view of patient identity to really help with that value-based care to help improve those overall outcomes?
That's a great question and something for us to really reflect upon. For those of you who don't know, Advocate Health is now one of the largest health systems in the country. We're the third largest not-for-profit health system in the United States. We're about $38 billion annual revenue, about 170,000 teammates across 6 states. And our mission really is to serve the people that are part of our communities, and that for all part of our mission statement really rings true to the conversation that we're having today in terms of how do we leverage AI to really impact care. When I think about super scaling and the opportunity for that to be the rocket fuel that lights up all that we do in healthcare and the service mentality that we need to continue to maintain in healthcare. Now, the approach that we take really is in making sure that we're not blinded by shiny objects. So a very purpose-driven approach towards AI can then be the directional elements that will really guide us forward. And so 3 quick examples. One really is around radiology, I mentioned earlier. And Vinod wasn't wrong, okay, in everything. In fact, he was very right in the fact that radiology was really quick to adopt AI. Right? We are the country's largest implementation of ADOC. And ADOC, by the way, runs on AWS. So, Angela, a high five to you. And what's really interesting is over 8 million imaging procedures a year across Advocate Health. And both my wife and I are radiologists, and it's saving us time. It's decreasing burnout, but it's also increasing accuracy, and it's allowing for us to interact better with our patients, with referring clinicians, with oncologists, with surgeons. It is humanizing care. That's number one. Number two, really quickly, 5% of eligible patients who can sign up for a clinical trial actually end up signing up for a clinical trial. Only 5%. So it's really actually 3 to 5%. Right? That's abysmal. If clinical trials with that branding was an airline, imagine the press that they would get. So what we're doing at Advocate Health is we're now launching what we're calling the Advocate Health National Center for Clinical Trials, powered by AI. And the big vision here is how do we make sure that clinical trials is not just a last resort? You've tried everything else. Have you heard of this one clinical trial? Oh, by the way, you have to be next to an NCI-designated cancer institute or a tertiary care center or a city like Charlotte or Chicago. Look, our vision is to make sure that clinical trials becomes just another care modality available for all, right? And partners like Labcorp and many others will participate in this National Center for Clinical Trials. And the third, and I'll just end with that, is really around robotics, right? And NVIDIA is here. And when we think about the future of interventions and surgical training and robotics and minimally invasive surgery, we just launched ERCAD North America, the destination center for surgical training and robotics and AI. And what we're doing is really revolutionizing the way that surgery is being done. And the common thread in each and every one of these is that the patient is at the heart of each of the innovations that we're using in a very purpose-driven way to leverage AI to care better, humanize healthcare.
I love that. I love hearing about ultimately where you're headed and why it's so important to have all of this data come together from so many different sources. So, Brian, I'll come to you. Okay. When you think about all this data coming together, when you think about what it's going to take in the future to understand what each patient needs to really personalize their care, tell me a little bit about how you will integrate the Moonshot platform, how that data is going to work, bringing you those patient insights, and really how are we going to get from the point of like point of care testing and where we can get to being more proactive and really look at a future view when we're taking care of patients from a diagnostic standpoint.
Sure. A lot of great questions in that. I think the first foundational thing is AI is only going to work if the data that you feed into it is good. I may be a little bit biased, but of all the data in healthcare, lab data is by far the best because it's entirely standardized, it's structured, it's quantitative. It doesn't have abbreviations or biases from what the patient told the doctor or what the doctor dictated when they were hungry before lunch or that night. So it's very quantitative in that case, really good. So we have, 47 billion lab test results in our database, so pretty rich. And even a system as large as Advocate, which is massive, most patients, because they're good empowered consumers, go get care in a lot of different places. And so to really identify a patient for a clinical trial or to give them the best information longitudinally about their chronic diseases or something like that, you've got to bring all the different data sets together to empower either the clinician or I guess in the future the AI clinician to do a good job of that.
And I actually think that's a really important point that you brought up about having clean data. Yeah. About having structured data, about not having it potentially contaminated based on somebody's interpretation of it. That's really important, which is why that data foundation is so incredibly important when you want to look to using new technology. Chelsea, let's come to you. Let's talk about how does NVIDIA's agentic strategy, how does that facilitate the development of where we're all going and what it means to us to have the kind of technology that you're helping to spearhead, and what is that doing overall for development?
Yeah. I think that most people think about NVIDIA, they immediately think gaming. And so we're like, oh, we're in healthcare? What does that mean? And NVIDIA has actually been in healthcare for about 20 years now. And we started off in the radiology and the pathology space. So, of course, that's where you start to hear AI. So it's not new in those spaces. And it seems like a buzzword here, it's AI, AI. But what we're really seeing is the real story behind that, right? And so we made quite a few announcements this week. That the big one of our partnership with Eli Lilly and Company, where we are building out a co-innovation lab. And we're going to put agentic workflows together where there's what we call lab in the loop. And I think the real story here is not just the agentic workflows, but it's the enablement of the startup ecosystem that can build these. We've opened sourced our models so that anyone can go leverage them. Our BioNemo platform, our Nemotron platforms for agentic workflows. We've made these models that you can go and access through our NVIDIA Inception program, where we partner with AWS, like ADOC. And so we've made it really easy to consume. We've made them easily to deploy anywhere. And so we've moved from AI as a tool to AI as an infrastructure to get really back to the core work that we want to do as scientists, as clinicians, which is really focused on how to get back to patient care. I wake up every day thinking about how do we get to democratize AI for healthcare, and putting those agentic workflows gets back to that being the real source of work.
So really it's making me think that the next great ideas will come from someone who has an agent by their side, somebody who's really thinking in that way and using the technology.
Absolutely.
One theme that has been throughout everything I've heard since I got here on Sunday has been about experiences. Whether it's the clinician experience or the patient experience, that's where we all should be leaning in a little bit as we think about what we want the future to look like. I would like each of you to really talk about the patient, the clinician experience, and what does that mean in this current environment of agentic AI? Start with you.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to start. And I'll go with the intersection of it. And maybe one shout to Vinod that is correct is even just for Labcorp, we have about 6,700 different lab tests on our menu. And there's no doctor in the world, including me, who works there, who has any idea exactly how to use all of them in the right situation to make the right diagnosis. And so I think a lot of the AI work that we're doing is trying to help doctors and other clinicians figure out the right lab test, whether it be a clinical decision support tool that is bolted onto the EMR, or other different ways of searching the medical terms they're using, the chief complaints, other things in their differential, prior history of different things to help serve up what is probably the next best test with the highest probability of being abnormal, and therefore leading you to a correct diagnosis. And just one point of reference for why this is so important and why we need to think about this. Back in, I think it was November, when China released its national AI healthcare strategy, one of the very specific outcomes that they put in there that is measurable is reducing the number of misdiagnoses in primary care clinics by a particular percentage. And because lab data is quantitative and it can be validated downstream, that is one of the areas where you can actually apply some sort of a state or system or state or regional or national goal like China is doing. That would improve the clinician experience because it's helping them make the next right decision, and it most definitely would improve patient outcomes, which is the whole point of healthcare.
100%. So being able to have those easier workflows, getting better outcomes, that's what we're all moving towards. So Chelsea, can you talk a little bit more about that too, about your focus on the work that you're doing, talking about that agentic scientist and how that can ultimately help with better experiences?
Yeah, I would say that, again, we talk about AI taking your jobs, it's really more like you're going to have AI scientists in your pocket. And so we're equipping biologists and chemists who really aren't trying to figure out how do I optimize this GPU, how do I make sure it's got the right workloads and get the right utilization, but they really get to focus back on what are the best protein interactions that are going to lead to the better medicines, the new drugs that we get back to patients. So having an AI scientist in your pocket to really help you figure out what are the right workloads, what are the things that you can automate. For our clinicians, thinking about how do you get rid of documentation. And we spend so much time on documentation, writing SOAP notes, making sure all the information is accurately documented and put in the right place, and giving that really back to the clinician to spend time with the patient. How many of us really don't want to have to go into our pockets and say, I didn't really get a chance to figure out what's wrong with me because I didn't have time to ask the questions of my doctor, or this is a hard question, or I don't really know enough information. I want to get really down to the answers, and enabling our clinicians with AI agents in their pockets where they may not have all the knowledge, but they can ask the questions to help them provide better education and better support to our patients. We're really working to help enable the ecosystem with the right agentic workflows to help reduce burnout and optimization of the workloads to get back to patient care.
So we know those tools exist right now. We want to ensure that they're made available. Rasu, I know you have a point of view on this. Can you share it with us?
Yes, we wrap up and think about really AI and the impact that it's having across healthcare, right? I'd say a couple of things. One, I think this is the moment in time where we have an opportunity to leverage such a powerful tool like AI and Gen AI as that to really move from patient-centered care to true person-centered care. We got to broaden that aperture, bringing all of those data elements that really defines the wants and needs of that person, right? Because sometimes we're a patient. Right? Sometimes, more often than not, we're a member if you have health insurance, right? Sometimes we're consumers, but all the time, we're people. So we got to take a person-centered approach to care, and I think that is one of the biggest opportunities today with the advent of all of the capabilities that we have. The second thing is I think we have an opportunity to move from where healthcare has been stuck in for the last 30 years or longer, which is transactional healthcare. It's about CPT codes. It's about HL7 messages. It's about did the patient show up? Did they not? Are these transactions? We got to elevate the game from a transactional healthcare to experiential healthcare. And then I think AI can really help with that. And the last thing I'll say is we're here at Startup Health, and I'm so glad that Startup Health is back here at JP Morgan. And healthcare is hard, right? And I think it takes all of us collectively together. Startups, Labcorp, AWS, big companies, small companies, NVIDIA, all of us together to really go after some of the biggest challenges that exist in healthcare. And that's what we're doing at Advocate Health, is really curating and catalyzing and converting an ecosystem of startups and all of us believers and doers into solving some of the biggest challenges. And I think AI would be the biggest accelerant for that.
Point of view, because it's going to give us an opportunity to allow patients to become really enabled in their care. So if you think about, there's so many things right now where you pull out your phone and you utilize an app to help you get to the next place you're going if you're using a map, to use it to do a banking transaction. Wouldn't it be amazing if you truly had that assistant in your pocket that was really helping you advance your health, getting you to a point to maybe you were going to live longer because you met every single preventative test you were supposed to have right at the right time, because you had every checkup that you were supposed to have at the right time, because you were getting that ongoing nudge to choose, I don't know, the fruit instead of the Rice Krispie treat, whatever it is, but you're getting that information that you really need. And so with that said, there are some really interesting, innovative things that are happening to help organizations be able to do that easier. And Mark, I'm going to ask you to tell everybody about that.
Thanks. You left me in suspense and tension until the end. But so one of the interesting things listening to people on the panel and also some of you in the room, NVIDIA enables a lot of what we do through, obviously, the foundational infrastructure. The other key component part we've heard again and again is everybody has differentiated intellectual property. You all do across all of your companies. So it's not simply about leveraging an Anthropic model or an OpenAI model or even an Amazon-based model. It's about how do you leverage your own data itself to actually bake it into a model. And that's what we've done at Amazon. Try not to make this be a marketing pitch, but with NovaForge being the capability to essentially bring your intellectual property, mix it with Amazon's foundational data, which was essentially curated and cost hundreds of millions of dollars to actually build these models. But by data mixing, you actually can incorporate your own intellectual property, make the model proficient for your specific use case. So again, many models that we have in the market are very general and are amazing. They really are. But what we're trying to do, especially with health, is specialist models. Yeah. And whether it's lab data or oncology data or any other medical discipline, it's super important to essentially imbue the model. It's an old word, but I like it because this is one of the important things with medicine. It's you need to permeate that model with the specific intellectual property that you have to enable it to perform for your specific use case. So this is part of the magic of what Move4H promises. It's that you can bring your multimodal intellectual property bake it into the model from scratch, and then leverage that model to serve your customers for many of your differentiated applications. And that's what we've done with Move4H.
And I think what's really exciting about that is so many times in healthcare, healthcare is a slow-moving industry. It's not going as fast as everybody else. You might say within your organization, I may not be first, but I won't be last. Here is an opportunity to do it in a way that's safe, have the guardrails that are available, feel comfortable, truly experimenting, and then moving forward, utilizing generative AI and agentic AI. And I'll tell you, we feel really dedicated to this. $50 billion invested in infrastructure to help everybody in healthcare truly move forward, and others as well, utilizing agentic AI. I want to give you a chance if you have one last word that you'd like to say, that you'd like to leave the audience with, as they continue here at JP Morgan, as they continue to think about how they're going to innovate on behalf of patients and on behalf of overall the healthcare continuum.
Want me to start? Technology is amazing. AI is going to improve everything, but medicine still is a healing art, and there's still more art than science to it. And we have to balance those and then move the whole field forward.
So we know this. We all know that AI is not a silver bullet, right? If you digitize a broken process, you end up with a broken digital process, right? So we got to humanize this. We got to really fix those broken processes first, and then really leverage AI and scale that to a level that has never existed before.
NVIDIA has optimized so many different models, open sourced them. Our agentic workflows on Nemotron have made it super, super easy. You can leverage them on AWS. And you have the ability and the power to do that. We've made it available. You have the tools. And so now let's build it.
Cool. And I think listening to all of these things, if you want to differentiate your business, you need to differentiate the model that your application is based upon. So that's my pitch.
I want to thank all of you. This is an amazing panel, great knowledge, great expertise. Thank you for sharing it.
And finally, an invitation to all of the extraordinary health transformers, whether you are a startup, someone building the future of health, or whether you are an investor, funder, or buyer of the solutions out there in the marketplace. This is an invitation to you to join the Startup Health member community. Learn more at startuphealth.com. Look forward to hopefully seeing you soon.